the journey itself is unique for everyone. You know, often people report that it's visual. Mine was visual heavy, but it wasn't like the LSD, what we think as a society of psychedelics, of like tie dye and Grateful Dead. It can be, but mine was not that at all.
Was there any buyer's remorse on that first journey when you were like an hour in and you're like, oh boy, this is way wilder than I thought? Or were you good with it?
I punched a ticket and took the ride. I wrote a letter to my wife that, like, if I die, I wrote a letter on the pillow. Like, I was that level of committed, and just like, there was, and actually, it was the furthest thing from buyer's remorse. It was the most positive. It was the most profoundly positive experience in my entire life. I talked about being a emotional coward. So with specifically for me, this is not or an Ibogaine blanket. Specifically for me, there's a spirit to this. I believe that there's a spirit to this medicine, that it connects with the divine. I tell people that this medicine loves you more than your conscious brain knows how to love yourself. And it's going to help you heal. Healing isn't always fun. Growth isn't always easy. We have a stigma of, look, we are the most comfortable society that humanity has ever known. We are sitting on comfortable chairs in an air-conditioned room. We have the least food scarcity in our society that we've ever had. Like, we are comfortable. And there is this stigma that being uncomfortable is bad. Like, a bad trip is one comfortable. And so we've really tried to change that in our coaching. So, like, yeah, you might be uncomfortable. Like, in the first 2 hours, I was sitting with the fact that I had emotional abandonment as a child. I was sitting with the fact that I was sexually assaulted as a child, and accepting those things. Those were not comfortable learnings. That was not unicorns and rainbows and pretty colors. Like, those were hard learnings. But at the same time, I wasn't living through this traumatic reliving of the experience. I was actually, in some cases, seeing visuals there were almost like 4K HD drone footage of moments in my life that were not attached to my traumas and my assaults, but they were allowing me to understand. And so I went through hours and hours of understanding why things happened in the past for me, not to me, which is one of my intentions of, like, starting to learn why things happened for me, not to me.
It's such a wild thing. And obviously, Tony, you've sat with it too. I've heard multiple accounts of people getting vivid flashbacks as if you're rewatching parts of your past. And it seems like it teaches you the lesson, and it's like shifts to the next one. It's like, all right, next frame. And yeah. I think I've now heard that from 4 or 5 different people. And I think maybe you even had that to some extent. And like, I mean, that is, what an incredible thing. I mean, it's mind blowing. Like,
and it doesn't always make sense in the moment.
Yeah.
Either.
Does it repeat then if you're not getting the lesson? Like, all right, well, like, I'll show you again, and then you finally go, oh, that's why I'm like that, because, when I was 8, this happened, and okay. And then, all right, got it, on to the next one. That
was how it was for me. Yeah.
Okay.
It was so for me, it started with fear of control. So, I learned after 10 years of, or I guess 8 years of untreated, undiagnosed PTSD, that I do have PTSD, as it turns out. So one of those things is around control. So every time that I was in charge, people got hurt because we had a pretty spicy deployment, but no one died. Times that I wasn't in charge, and other units were making other decisions that I didn't have control over, people died. And I was the first responder to picking up pieces of humans that sometimes they were dead because their leadership poor decision. So what that taught me was that when I'm in control, everything's safe. My loved ones are safe. I'm safe. I'm in control. Well, when you step into the psychedelic medicine space, you have to relinquish control. So I'm laying in this bed and, like, trying to, knowing that I'm supposed to. And you're hooked up to a blood pressure cuff. You have a pulse oximeter. You have an IV drip. You have an EKG. And your IV drip, it changes every 30 minutes or an hour, and it beeps. Changes. Like, it is very normal stuff. But when you are scared and in a slightly altered state of consciousness, and you hear beeping, and you're afraid of your own death, and you're afraid of giving up control. I was convinced I was dying. Like I was coding out. Like that was the beep, beep, beep from the EKG that are in movies. And I was convinced I was dying. And so I take my mask off. You're wearing a mask and headphones. So you can like stay in this space. And like the nurse is just sitting there watching me. And I look up and like half of it's in Spanish and the EKG, like, first of all, I'm trying to read an EKG upside down high on Ibogaine. Like that doesn't work. And then it's half in Spanish. And I'm like, where's the doctor? Why isn't anyone reacting? I'm dying. I know that I'm dying. And I made eye contact with the nurse and I just like pointed to myself and pointed to the EKG and I like thumbs up. And Ilda just gave me the like the sweetest little thumbs up. He's like, yeah, you're good. Like, all right. Same time, I was having a ton of anxious thoughts coming into my brain before that. And I was like, I don't know how to do psychedelic. I had never done a a therapeutic psychedelic prior to Ibogaine. Plenty of recreational, never a therapeutic. And I was like, I don't know how to do this, but I know what a panic attack feels like. And I was like, those thoughts were coming in. I was like, nope, not today, Satan. Like, we're going to put those in a box. Like, and like, I'm just going to put those thoughts in a box, put them in a box. And I like visualize I'm putting these anxious thoughts into this trash can. Well, that trash can's sitting on my chest. And then as the trash can's getting full, it's getting heavier and heavier. And I'm worried about my heart.
The panic is going to...
I have a very normal congenital heart defect that's not affected by Ibogaine at all, but I'm convinced I'm going to die. And then she gave me the thumbs up. I put the mask back on and I laid down. I was like, oh, the trash can's empty. That's the last time in the last 10 months that I have felt acute anxiety panic. It works. Like, it's allowed me to have control of my thoughts and know that, like, I haven't had the same level of anxiety since that moment when I closed my eyes and the trash can was empty. And then it tested me as well on like how committed am I. So I was in a made no sense. I was in a theater with my wife from a past time in our lives, and we were watching a production on a stage that was completely like, it was just like, this is really happy experience. I was reliving this happy experience. And you know how like when you're in a movie theater, like the exit lights are red and they're lit up and they kind of silhouette like emergency exits. Well, these emergency exits were up behind the stage and they were these dark. And now I knew, so smart, that my experience was going to be like 10 hours. If you've ever seen Stranger Things, I was going to be in the upside down for 12 hours. And I was going to be awful. I was going to be chased by monsters. And those eyes, they looked at me and said, all right, coward. I'll make the language appropriate for this. All right, coward, you're too scared. You are too scared to walk over here and go through this and step into the experience. So enjoy this little thing that you're enjoying. But if you're really committed, you're going to come over and we're going to, and you're going to face it. And for the first time in my life, emotionally, I committed to, no, I'm not afraid. We're going to do it. And I'm coming over there. And as soon as I made that commitment to medicine, scene changed. And then I went on a 4-hour learning journey of past traumas. And like, I had to make that commitment to the medicine, make that commitment to myself. And when I did, the medicine, all right, you're ready to do the work. Go to work.